So, so this is my presentation that I'm going to give. So I'm doing this as an example because I want y'all to put together a presentation for the end of the semester. Now you can do the presentation at your show, at research day, or we can do it together like this. But it's a good practice for you to get into because sometimes you're going to have opportunities to talk about your work. You're going to be a visiting artist or something like that. You need to be able to talk about your work. I'm going through this kind of quickly. So this presentation is about the current work that I'm working on with the Word of the Day by Map. So this is a comic strip that I started in 2018 based off of my own prompts that I dug up. So I'm going to talk about that. And if you have any questions as we go along, feel free.
Okay, so who's Matt?
That's me.
Huh.
So that's me. Look at that. So in the beginning, I was awestruck by all things pictures and art. I love children's book and illustration. I love comic strips in the newspaper, and I love Saturday morning cartoons. And so I was in awe of all of those things from the beginning. In fact, my mom told me that as soon as I could hold something, whether it be like Play-Doh or a pencil or something like that, I was always making or drawing things. And she said she knew from very early on that I was going to be an artist. And she didn't tell me that until I became one, but so let me talk a little bit about some of these beginnings. I loved Garfield when I was a boy, probably 9, 10 years old. I was obsessed with Garfield. I actually wrote Jim Davis a letter and offered my services. I sent him pictures and I said I could be one of your assistants, and I think I was 9 or 10, something like that. He wrote me a nice letter back saying that he was okay, but had his signature on it. I don't know where that letter is today, but I always drew him. I loved Garfield. I loved the clean lines. I loved the snarky comments. I loved just the way that Garfield was drawn. I loved it. I would pore over those and I would practice them, just like Caravaggio. And I was studying every little bit of how he did those things. I do now realize that Garfield is dumb. It's not funny, and it's a billion-dollar industry that he doesn't do anything with anymore. He probably approves comics or has somebody approves comics, but yeah, he's the opposite of some of the ones that I really like Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin and Hobbes is, I love the philosophy that is taught, the morals that are taught. I love the lessons that are taught in these comics. In fact, a lot of Bill Watterson, I could do a whole presentation on Bill Watterson, but he was so resistant to the consumerism behind these cartoons. He was invited twice to go speak with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas at Skywalker Ranch to discuss movies. But he declined both of those offers in favor of, he said that he wanted the voice that we put into Calvin's mouth to be the voice for each of us. So when you read Calvin speaking, he wanted not to dictate the voice, he wanted the person reading to have the voice in their head. So they never did any plushies. He only did one calendar, but all of it was all about the books. And he did it for 10 years until he was so tired of all the pressure for consumerism, he just quit. And he was probably like 36 years old when he retired doing that. Anyways, I love it. And there's a lot, and I picked this cartoon in particular because of our current situation. I don't know if you're reading that, but I figured people could read the cartoons instead of listening to me sometimes. But I have learned a lot in my current work from looking at Calvin and Hobbes with the variants of line and I don't know, just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Another one that I love, mainly not because of drawings as much as I love the content, is The Far Side by Gary Larson. I don't know if you see that, but it's got at his computer, his finger hovering over the smite button. I love that one. I love it. Gary Larson was he was not an art major. He was a scientist. Studied I don't know, it was microbiology. I should get all these things right before research day. But he was really good at what he did. I'm very influenced by him. I read him. And similar deal, he did it for about 10 years and then quit. There's also, if you look it up, there's a really cool, he did a Halloween special, an animated special. It's the only animated Far Side there is. It's got really creepy music by Bill Frisell, who I already love, and it just goes from one comic to the next. There's no dialogue. It's really cool. You can look it up on YouTube. I also love James Thurber. We had a James Thurber book growing up, and this cartoon just fascinated me because it's so unusual. That's all it is. Darling, I seem to have this rabbit. And my brothers and sisters, we just talk about this. We're like, what does it mean? Does it need to mean anything? I'm not sure. But like, she's angry. He's coming in. Looks like he's been in a fancy place. He's got a top hat on. And he seems to have this rabbit. I don't know. But I love the mystery of it. I love the humor. So when I was 9 or 10, I also had my own cartoons. And I couldn't find any of them. My parents are not in their house currently, and so I couldn't get any pictures of them. Stubborn Steve, Mr. Phil, Life in Indiana, USA. I was living in Indiana, a little town at this time. So I had these string of comic strips that I would draw, and I even submitted them to our local little newspaper, and they didn't accept it. I thought, even as a 10-year-old, I was like, that would have been really encouraging for me just to put at least one in there for one day, But they didn't. They probably didn't think they were funny. I remember there was one of a little kid kneeling on his kitchen chair, trying to eat a bowl of soup, and he says, "Mom, the soup won't fit in my fork." That was it. Anyways, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do cartoons. So, fast forward 2012. In high school, I was really fascinated by words, and I would pick up words. I would do a word of the day. I just loved words, weird words. I remember one of them was valetudinarian, and lugubrious was another one, which is a great word. And so I loved words, and then I kept wanting to find one of these old dictionaries, and so that I could just have words. And so I did. I found one. There was a thrift store in town that's no longer here, and it was February 22nd, 2012. I bought it for $5, and since that day, since 2012, I have picked a word from that dictionary, and most of the words that I pick, I don't know what they mean, and they're not regularly used in our vocabulary. So I started by just picking a word. And I did that for about 6 years. And then I was about to teach an illustration class, and I was like, well, maybe I should work on some illustrations. So I started doing some illustration prompts. And I used two different sources. I used Illustration Friday, which had a word that they would post on Friday, and you would do an illustration and tag them in it, and it was a prompt. Then I got ambitious and started doing Inktober, which is the October prompt. They do 30 days of prompts, and you put it up there. So I really got excited about it. I was doing some digital, and then I was doing some regular watercolor stuff just to kind of get used to it, and I was enjoying myself. In fact, the next year, the year 2018, when I did Inktober, this changed everything. I started doing these little cartoony things with their own particular style. I wanted to do a style, so I just stuck with one ink color. This was the wash, and then I had a pen that I bought in New Mexico at a little art supply store, and so I did 30 days with the same style. And after the 30 days was up, I was like, I want to keep going. And I told that to one of my students, and they're like, well, why don't you're already posting a word of the day, why don't you let that be your prompt? And I was like, you're right. So then I started doing that. So then word of the day started in 2018, near the end of the year, and I started doing one. And these are two examples of, this is a really early one, you can tell, because it's not that great. I was using one size of micron pen, I was using ink, and then I was using a little bit of watercolor, and then I was taking a picture of them. I wasn't scanning them. So, and then you look at the other one, the Direption. That one, I started using fountain pens, and I started getting different sizes of fountain pens. So there started being a bit more of a dynamic. So I started planning them more instead of just drawing them, just starting drawing them, I started planning them more. And those are some of the words and what they mean, that and how they were prompted. Some good stuff, good words. So I'm just going to show you some of these. You can look at them if you'd like. I started learning different methods. I really got into fountain pens. Way too much. Still am, but I really like I was looking at Calvin Hobbes and the variety of the thickness of line that he was getting. And I started getting better at the painting. I started getting better at composition and the wording. I started getting better at lettering and things like that. There's a couple more. Two of my favorites. The chicken one. It was like one of the darkest things I'd ever done. And so, yeah. And that's how I feel at Walmart sometimes. Also, I sometimes I'll deal with issues like in characters. So penguins for me are fashion. I think of penguins in fashion because they all wear the same thing. So I always, when I think of something in costumes or dress up or fashion like that, I think of penguins because I want them to express themselves in different ways. Also, I like to deal with issues, in sometimes subtle, sometimes heavy-handed ways. So this is a little subtle one, silly. We are a pair, but it deals with current issues of the day. And sometimes they get political. So these are two that I've done recently. The chicken reading Humpty Dumpty to her chicks. All the king's horses and all the king's men didn't actually care about the price of eggs. And then this one was today's. I'm flattered that you want to take our relationship to the next level, but I just want to stay friends. So in Canada, my wife's Canadian. When they say the letter Z, they say Z, just like they do in England. And so I was like, okay. I always like to bring Z into that. So I like to deal with, sometimes I deal with the issues. Sometimes the issues are too intense. I came up with an idea a week or two ago that was went too far. And so I did another version of it. I told my wife my idea, and her reaction was, because it was, the original cartoon was, or the cartoon that I published was a penny talking to a quarter, and the penny goes, well, I think I'm going to head to the beach because I'm retired now, because they're discontinuing the penny, and the quarter says, I hear the Gulf of America is beautiful this time of year. And but my first one is, I'm even a little worried to say it out loud, and somebody's listening to me. The penny says to the quarter, I don't know why the president retired me, and the quarter says, I think it's because you're brown. So,
yeah, I did the same thing.
So did Mr. Everybody that I showed it to, the same reactions. I was like, I'm glad I didn't put it out there, but I did draw it, and it is there.
I have to see this.
So, anyways, so sometimes I get political because I care, and I don't want to be complicit. So, in 2019, after repeated requests, I decided to make a book. So I did a compilation of my cartoons in 2019, and it's the book one. And I look at it now. I actually took it down because the drawings are so poor. Now that I look back on it, So and so I have book one. That was really kind of fun to do. I did book two the next year, and it was better. I liked it a lot better. And now this year I'm working on book three. So there was a long time that I didn't do it, but now I'm working on book three. I don't know if y'all get that, the Tertian Chronicles. Tertian means third, and Martian Chronicles is a Ray Bradbury book. I don't know if it plays or not, but anyways, I'm hoping that this year I'll get this out. I've been working on it. I got 90-something pages already laid out. I just have to finish it up. But that's what I love to work on a series of art, and I usually work on a series of art for a year or two, and then I move on. I've been doing this now This year will be 7 years. And sometimes I wonder if I'm going to keep going, but I just keep getting I have the right materials, I have all the stuff I need to do, and I just really enjoy doing it. So I'm going to keep doing it until I just don't want to do it any longer. This is my social media. I do have a Facebook page, Word of the Day by Matt, and then I have an Instagram page that I post these on each day. But I really love doing these, and I love sometimes when something simple like this just comes out of me, and I just giggle to myself. I learned that from when I was reading an article after Shel Silverstein died. He was one of my heroes, and he, except for maybe his adult work, but I read about the guy who wrote the article was a friend of his, and he talked about going to visit Shel Silverstein, and he said, "Hold on, I'm working on some stuff, just wait, and then we'll go out." And he sat in his couch and he watched him. He was at his drawing table, and he was laughing and giggling and making noises and stuff as he was drawing his little drawings. And that's what I experience. I love doing this, and it's so much fun for me, and it actually is fulfilling a childhood dream that I had. And so that's that. Any questions?
So, we now know that you do Word of the Day, get turned into books. Were you thinking about doing something similar for your Eat Sober series?
I thought this morning about doing one for my quotes, because every Sunday I post a quote on social media, and so I thought about doing that. My only concern is I do Google searches, and I go to like A to Z quotes or brainy quotes or things like that, and so I don't have any backup for who said these quotes if they really did say them. So I do worry about that. I probably should look those up. But yeah, I have thought about doing that. The quotes, they're pretty good. And all of these I put out for sale every day, and I sell 2 or 3 a month, and it's kind of a fun little source of income. But I always throw a little sticker in there, and I draw a little picture on the outside of the envelope that deals with what's inside. If it's a penguin, I draw a penguin or whatever. Any other questions?
Does it's because I'm brown one happen to be for sale?
It is available.
Okay.
To me, it is the best punchline I've ever come up with.
It's really good.
But I have so many friends on both sides of the aisle, and it's very cutting, and I believe it's appropriately cutting, but I just don't want to put it out there. I'll show it to you. So you can think. That's a good question. So this is an example of an artist presentation. So if I, like last year I had a show of this work, and I could have used this as a presentation for the work that kind of goes the history of things. So I would love for you to do something similar. It's possible for you to take notes, to write an outline, to write things down if you need to. I get uncomfortable doing that. I like speaking like this because I know the background of all these things. But the slide helps me with the organization of my thoughts. So, any questions about the assignment for you? I know you've got a lot going on.
When is it due?
By the end of the semester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if you would like, I know you're having a show, right? Or is that next semester?
It's next
Oh,
semester.
that's next semester. Okay. But I think it would be fun. I don't know if fun or not, but if one of the classes before the end of the semester, we can do this together. But if you do it and then give each other feedback, because I remember when I was coming here to interview for a job, my fellow grad students and I got together and they're like, okay, do your presentation for us so we can give you some feedback. And they did. They said, you say a lot. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. So it helped.
So when we get done with the PowerPoint, do you just want us to turn it into you, or?
Yeah, turn your PowerPoint into me,
Okay.
because sometimes I need examples for the future that are not just my stuff.
And is it just about us or just about?
It can be about your show. It can be about a body of work that is you. I just want it to be focused on your art practice And it can be the history of your art practice, or it could be your current art practice. What I want you to do is to pretend like you have an exhibit, and then you have an artist talk to go with that exhibit, and you are presenting it, because that's going to happen to each of you. It's going to happen. So if you have this in your pocket, you can always revise it. It's nice. Okay?